Well, this is a little awkward. I don't think I've ever had to describe the plot to The Lion King before. Everyone I know has seen it. But for the two of you that haven't, here's the rundown. An animal kingdom in Africa is celebrating the birth of the new lion prince named Simba. He spends his days receiving lessons from his father Mufasa, who's preparing Simba to become king when the time comes. However, Mufasa's aptly named brother Scar is secretly planning to seize the throne for himself. I think I've made my opinion on Disney's latest remakes rather clear before, but I'll sum it up again briefly. I'm fine with Disney giving some of their properties a second chance if they could benefit from it. The movies themselves, not Disney. Cinderella, The Jungle Book, and Pete's Dragon have been the best ones so far because they improved upon the originals. But whenever Disney remakes some of their best pictures, it doesn't turn out so well. What really made me fear this new Lion King was the Beauty and the Beast remake. That movie stuck so close to the original that its existence seemed pointless, with the added bits and pieces serving little to no purpose. And I'm afraid The Lion King follows in similar footsteps. If you've seen the original, then you've seen this one too, because it's essentially the same movie. The opening Circle of Life sequence lets you know exactly what you're in for with an almost perfect duplicate of the iconic intro to the 1994 film. This version of The Lion King is very much like Gus Van Sant's take on Psycho, which was a shot-for-shot remake of the Hitchcock classic. The majority of this film is a carbon copy, including most of the dialogue, scene structure, and even the musical cues. Nostalgia is the name of the game here, but it can only go so far. Admittedly, it's nice to see some familiar elements and relive certain moments, but it's all the same stuff. The story follows the original note for note with minimal deviation. As such, not only is there a lack of creativity, but also a deficit of purpose. The few additions are ultimately inconsequential, offering nothing substantial to this interpretation. This movie brings so little to the table that you wonder why it was made in the first place. I mean, it was obviously greenlit for monetary purposes, but I had hoped that there was some artistic motivation behind it. But judging by the product, money was the sole motivation, and it shows. Seeing as how there are so many similarities, let's focus on what's different with this do-over. For starters, we have some added scenes. Remember that mouse Scar caught at the beginning of the film? Well, now we get to watch it run around for an extra minute. That's amusing. Now we get to see Zazu drop Nala off at Pride Rock. That adds about 10 seconds. Okay. How about my favorite new part? Remember how Simba's hair made its way to Rafiki, letting him know he was alive? Well, now we get to see the whole journey. And when I say the whole journey, I mean the whole damn thing. We are given the privilege of seeing this bit of Simba's mane take a swim in a river, be picked up by a bird, be eaten by a giraffe, and be rolled around in stool by a dung beetle. No, I'm not kidding. The hair spends part of its travels attached to giraffe excrement. Isn't that great? The movie takes us on this 3 to 4 minute journey that adds absolutely nothing to the story. Part of me thinks this is a response to the recent plot hole culture that has developed, where film criticism has been misconstrued with pointing out logical errors. A similar mindset plagued 2017's Beauty and the Beast, which was dedicated to explaining every little thing that wasn't touched upon in the original. There is one new scene, however, that does present us with something worthwhile. Time is devoted to showing Nala's departure from Pride Rock. She has a conversation with the other lionesses, and her motivations and will are expanded upon slightly, which is appreciated and gives us a significant alternative to the original. Because we don't see Nala as an adult until she attacks Pumbaa in the 94 flick, her appearance and identity are kept as a surprise. In this version, we're given more context as to why she left. Not that we needed it, but it does give us a neat little stealth scene as she tries to escape and increases Nala's screen time. This remake needed more decisions like this, where something is so very different that we have a reason for watching it. As for changes, there are several to mention. Shenzi, the female hyena, has been promoted to leader of the carnivorous dogs this time around, and it goes nowhere. She doesn't do much, but has built up a sort of a secondary antagonist. I can see what the filmmakers were going for by making the hyenas more serious and threatening, but with such limited screen time, this is never fully realized. Simba's conversation with Mufasa's ghost is incredibly dull. Remember how Mufasa's astral figure emerged from the clouds in this glorious scene? Well, they've left us with just the clouds this time. Rafiki is considerably less interesting, with a more reined-in personality compared to the kooky playfulness we all remember. Where he used to be more like Yoda, now he's more like Obi-Wan. And this brings me to my next point. As I've said, this picture is essentially a shot-for-shot remake of the 90s original, so I was utterly dumbfounded when I noticed that the scene where Rafiki hits Simba on the head was nowhere to be found. Of all the things to omit, why would you make it arguably the most important moment of the story? This is where the moral of the film is contextualized perfectly in one of Disney's best written scenes. It's baffling. What we are left with is Mufasa telling Simba, the clouds with Mufasa's voice telling Simba to go back to Pride Rock, and Simba pretty much saying, yeah, okay. Without that scene, Simba's enlightenment comes across as jarring and abrupt. The star-studded cast is rather lackluster as well. Donald Glover leaves a lot to be desired as Simba, Beyonce is good as Nala, but not given much to do, Chiwetel Ejiofor voices Scar terrifically, but the character is written more seriously and less charming, John Oliver is on and off as Zazu, and of course, we have James Earl Jones returning as Mufasa, giving another magical performance. However, while it is great to hear Jones's powerful voice again, I don't like the idea of bringing him back to play the same character. It reinforces the creative scarcity tremendously and further indicates a $sign incentive from the studio, as if they couldn't find anyone else to voice Mufasa. They're just playing the nostalgia card. But one change I'm absolutely in love with comes in the form of Timon and Pumbaa, voiced by Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen. These two steal this entire movie as the comedic duo, Eichner especially. While a lot of the dialogue remains intact from the first film, the jokes have seen a major overhaul. Eichner and Rogen are frequently hysterical, and I get the feeling that a lot of it was done on the fly. As a result, Timon and Pumbaa are consistently enjoyable and easily the best part of the film. Oddly enough, the movie also focuses a lot more on existentialism than its hand-drawn counterpart, not only with the circle of life teachings, but with how Timon and Pumbaa view existence as a straight line as opposed to a circle. It's actually pretty fascinating when you look into it, and helps to set this film apart ever so slightly. And of course I'm going to mention the mind-boggling special effects, how could I not? The visuals are just as impressive as they were in 2016 with The Jungle Book. Everything looks so detailed and organic, creating a nearly seamless mirror of reality. As amazing as the effects are, this realistic take does come with some drawbacks, the most notable of which is the lack of emotion from many of the characters. Lions and other animals don't have naturally expressive faces, and that fact, unfortunately, translates to this feature. The actors will evoke emotion through their vocal performances, but the on-screen creatures often don't emote accordingly because of this National Geographic style. Because of this, so much of the emotion is lost, with scenes like Simba's return mustering up nothing, and Mufasa's death being a literal joke. Also, we lose a lot of the benefits that come from animation. Sure, Africa looks incredible, but never as beautiful as it did in the '94 picture. The vivid and varied colors are replaced by sun-stained greens and sandy yellows, making the environments less intriguing and sometimes downright dull. The lions are also far less distinguishable, with adult Simba strongly resembling Mufasa, Scar losing his iconically magnificent design, and Nala and the other lionesses looking identical. There's a point in the film where Nala runs off and one of the other female lions runs out to see her, and I honestly couldn't tell you whether it was Sarabi or her mother. Sadly, the songs have also been affected by this graphical change. Where animation allows for brilliant imagery and abstract concepts like the wonderful Tower of Animals in I Just Can't Wait to Be King, realism severely limits the scope of imagination. The extravagant parade of animals from the previously mentioned song has been replaced by a vapid game of hide and seek. Can You Feel the Love Tonight now takes place completely during daylight hours for some inexplicable reason, not only rendering some of the lyrics nonsensical, but also taking away much of the allure. And, dear lord, be prepared, what did they do to you? The neon greens and contrasting blue and orange hues are absent, instead favoring an entirely gray color scheme. The song has been rewritten to match the new take on the hyenas, but it's executed in such a poor manner. When the best song in the movie is by far The Lion Sleeps Tonight, you know something went wrong. I could go on and on about the little details of this film, like how much I love that Scar decides to sit down during his conversation with Simba, or how much I hate the inclusion of modern-styled humor. but in the end, this remake can be summed up simply as an effortless rehash. Barring the visuals, the film feels devoid of passion, instead relying on nostalgic beats, playing a game of, remember this? You loved it then, so you'll love it now. The film's main saving grace is that the original story is so good, making this version watchable and entertaining to an extent. It's not told as well nor as creatively, but the basic plot remains potent to a degree. The movie tries to get by on the bare minimum, and it really shows. I give The Lion King a C. The worst part about all of this is that the movie will go on to please audiences and make a ton of money at the box office, paving the way for more shameless copy and paste products. But I've expressed myself enough for one day. What did you think of The Lion King? How would you compare it to the original? And what Disney film do you think deserves the remake treatment? Be sure to let me know in the comments section. And if you like this video, then please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel for similar content, as that would really help me out. See you in the next video.